Al Horford locked up for 2 more years. Robert Williams getting very, very close to coming back. We'll talk about the impact of both of those things. Plus, the one thing the Celtics did the whole game that they might not do on Friday night against the Miami Heat. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team. Step back, we gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day, and I am here for you every day with a free, fresh podcast dropped directly to your device if you are subscribed. So make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcast. You can even watch a show on YouTube. I would love it if you watch a show on YouTube. Closing in on 9,000 subscribers now. I asked for people to subscribe on YouTube, mostly to throw it in the face of the Locked On Lakers folks. I want to continue to do that. I'm not done doing that. Like I said, I want to extend my lead. I'm not satisfied with a lead. I want to step on a throat. So let's get it past 9,000. Let's get it up to 10,000. I do appreciate everyone who has subscribed very, very much. I'm John Karalis, cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I used to play professional basketball. I've also written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. Just mailed out a bunch of those. People have been ordering them through johnkaralis.com. So really appreciate that as well. If you want to do that, $30, I can get a few more of these out on time for the holidays. All right, let's talk a little bit of basketball. Later on, we'll talk about Miami and the coach of the month and the player of the month. Congratulations to the Joe Mazzulla and Jayson Tatum. Second segment, I promised yesterday that we were going to talk about Robert Williams and his impending return. But let me bring in Tom_NBA to talk about Al Horford.
I did want to say, before we get into it, just on the YouTube thing, people should remember that the Celtics and the Lakers are tied at 17 banners apiece right now. So right. if the Celtics win one, that's great, right? But then if they're going to need to win another one because you got to pad your lead. And I think the same thing could be said of the YouTubes. You know, you gotta
absolutely.
Like, what are you going to be happy being up 18-17? I don't think so. No. You're going to want it. You're going to want more.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah. What have we criticized the Celtics for over and over and over again? You get a big lead, and then you get complacent, and then you piss it away.
Their coach doing bad. No, not that. Never mind.
Yeah, no, not that one. Turn next page in the script.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So let's take it again. 3, 2. Tom, what have we been complaining about with this team for so long?
Enes Kanter.
All right. Let's see.
All right.
We gotta. All right. You know what? Scrap it. I'll cut
Dennis Schroeder. That was it. It was Dennis Schroeder.
That was
Dennis.
No. Now you've got me.
All right.
Where are my notes? Schroeder, Kanter. What are we talking about again?
Al Horford.
Horford. Yeah. Al Horford signed a 2-year, $20 million extension. My Jimmy Butler. Woo. Al Horford, 2 years, $20 million. Best way to put it, good for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah,
next segment.
I think like you look at that deal, and I went on Spot Rack today, and Horford after this deal will have made $285 million in his career, which, like, cheers to Al Horford, man. That dude. I mean, look. That dude kept himself in shape. He did all the right things. He never tried to be anything that he wasn't even when he was a star. He never tried to do anything never tried to be anything that he wasn't. And as a result, he is going to retire from basketball an unfathomably rich man. And shout out to him for that. I'm sure he is I'm sure he has invested every cent of that extremely wisely.
I'm sure he has. And not to mention all that chocolate milk money. I mean, he's getting a ton. The chocolate milk money is alone. Just give me the chocolate milk money. I'd be happy with that.
I mean, we all want to be in bed with the chocolate milk mafia. We understand that. But
obviously.
I mean, look, on the other end too, like, this is a great deal for the Celtics. This, like, kind of keeps him around for a while. Very affordable. Less than what I believe B-Rob pointed out. Less than what the non-taxpayer mid-level exception would be like,
Yep.
this is it's going to keep him in Boston probably through the end of his career. Really good all around.
Yeah, I will say that I'm also in bed with the BetOnline money. So today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline, which has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. It's not chocolate milk money, but it'll have to do for me. It's a great deal. And I think I want to point out a couple of things for people who've been asking questions on Twitter and elsewhere. This doesn't impact the Celtics really in any way other than whatever their tax bill is going to be. But even that, it's like not that big of a deal. It doesn't change how much money they have to spend. It doesn't change how much money they can give Grant Williams. It doesn't change any of that stuff. This is just money that they had. I'm not going to get into the crazy minutia of the CBA. This is just money that they could pay Al Horford. So it keeps Al Horford in town for 2 more years after this one, which is great. You want a veteran guy. And I think what we're seeing this season is like even more of a transition into the next phase of the final phase of his career. Because I've never heard Al Horford say the phrase shoot or shoot. But after he went 0 for 7 and I was like, so what's going on? Or after he had a perfect night after going 0 for 7, he said, shoot or shoot. And I'm like, you're not a shooter, but he is. He is a shooter. In fact, I'm going to call this up real quick because I've been kind of like keeping an eye on Al Horford's 2-pointers versus 3-pointers. And this year, let's see, he has taken 80 3-pointers and 57 2-pointers.
Yeah.
He's never, ever had more 3s than 2s. In fact, you go back to his Atlanta days. I looked this up the other day. He once had 1,054 2-pointers and 6 3-point attempts. He has slowly, and this is to his credit, he has evolved as the game has evolved. Next thing you know, in 2014-15, he takes 36 3-pointers. The following year, 256. He's like, okay, sure, you need me to shoot 3s? No problem. And now we're seeing him get to that next phase. And more 3s than 2s. He's more of a spot-up guy for this Celtics team. He doesn't need to be a back-to-the-basket guy. He can be if you need him to be every once in a while. But his role has changed. And if that's how he just evolves and is a guy that can play some good defense in fewer and fewer minutes and maybe come off the bench in the next couple of years, I think this is, look, $10 million, like you said, less than the mid-level, the less than the full mid-level. This is essentially ring chasing by staying home.
Exactly.
And, it's the best for both worlds. I will throw this back at you. This really makes me appreciate the Robert Williams contract because, I mean, they're making close to the same money. And this is such a bargain for, like, Rob's making $10 million this year and he'll make 11 and change next year where Al is going to make 10. And I know that injuries have been baked into Rob's contract, but still, this is, if you negotiated Rob's contract this past summer, he wouldn't have been making $10 and $11 million. That's for damn sure. So this deal really makes me appreciate that Rob deal.
Yeah, and I mean the Rob injuries were baked into both sides of those negotiations, right? Like they were baked in on the Celtics side because they were like, it's not going to be a max, man. It's certainly not going to be based on your potential. But on Rob's side too, it was baked in on like, okay, look, like let me lock in life-changing money, and then I'll try to get healthy, and then try to get healthy consistently, and then make Al Horford money on the back end. And I think it was funny. It was funny when you were going through that laundry list of the ways that Horford has changed himself. I was doing a bunch of looking up a bunch of numbers today too, and so I believe it was the first 8 years of his career he made 21 total 3s. Which is hilarious because he's what did you say? He's made like 60 already, 50 already this season.
He's 39. He's 39 of 80 this
39
season.
of 80. That was the number. So, and then the other thing that I thought was interesting was if you go back and look at the last few years. So his last year in Philly on Synergy, most of his possessions were post ups. His lone season, whatever little bit he did in Oklahoma City, most of his possessions were pick and roll as the roll man. Over the last 2 seasons in Boston, by far the most has been spot up, and second has been transition. So it's like really just kind of bang. He got to Boston and he just switched his game, became everything that he needed to be, became everything that he needed to do to extend his career. And to, he told Steve Bulpett on heavy.com earlier this year that, that like Danny Ainge told him he could play until he was 40. And like, we're seeing him take the steps that he needs to do to get right up to that point. So yeah, I mean, credit to Al Horford, man. He's like, this isn't just keeping a veteran presence around. Like, this is keeping a guy who's going to help your team and who has, like we were talking about on the last episode, really optimized himself for this roster.
Yep. It's great. It's great to have a 36-year-old guy in that locker room looking like Al Horford looks like, playing like Al Horford looks like. All these young dudes are like, how do you keep doing it? And he's like, yeah, lay off the Chick-fil-A or lay off the, the other stuff, going to the Minnesota conversation, like it is a great example. And it is a great example. I think he has helped Robert Williams significantly. Robert Williams talks about it all the time.
He won't shut up about it.
Will not shut up about how much Al Horford has helped him. This is the next 2 years of Al Horford that's a nice kind of easy runway to say, okay, I'm going to retire and hopefully with a ring or two and educate and just give Rob that little extra something. I think Rob understands now taking care of his body and all of that stuff, which leads me to Robert Williams is back on the floor, and we're going to talk about that next. First, today's show is brought to you by BetOnline.net, your number one source for all of your betting needs. In fact, they just came out with new odds for new championship odds. And the Celtics are at the top. I forget where they were, but where they are now is a plus 400. Number one by far, Milwaukee Bucks plus 550, Golden State plus 750, Phoenix plus 800. So the Celtics way in front as far as title odds, 4-1 to win the championship. You can find all that stuff at BetOnline, plus the latest odds, trends, and for every professional or amateur league out there, from football to basketball, obviously soccer, esports. It's all there at BetOnline. And since you do love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. It's the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head on over to the website. You can use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. All the big stories from across the sports world, featuring the Locked On local experts, the local hosts, so you get an insight like nowhere else. Check it out wherever you found this podcast. You can also find it on YouTube. Tom_NBA. Back to talk about Robert Williams, who was out there on Wednesday morning, shoot around, playing 5-on-5 against coaches and Noah Vonleh, who might as well be a coach at this point, and getting some up and down, getting some reps, blocking some shots, making some passes, all of that stuff. He's, on pace to return some point. We're now in December. He'll be back, barring any sort of setback. He'll be back this month and maybe soon. So, first of all, Tom, how do you think his return is actually going to impact this team? Obviously, we talk about defense, offense. One of the questions I keep getting is there going to be a hiccup when he comes back? Like, what do you think his return is going to look like? And how soon do you think?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I do think there's going to be a bit of a hiccup. Partly, and it'll be a good hiccup in the long term because Rob Williams is a really good player, and you have to get that guy integrated. But this team has just been buzzing it's just been moving at such an unbelievable pace. The offense is so perfect. Like, they're so good. And I just, anything that you put in there that's a little bit different, I think will take some time and some adjustment. Like Rob doesn't shoot threes. This team, like so many of their lineups, are just full of guys who shoot threes. And I just think that's going to be a little different, right? Like you put, that starting group with Derek White and Al Horford is beating teams by 13 points per 100 possessions. And like, that's really good for a starting group. It's like, kind of mid on this Celtics team, but it's really good for a starting group. And like Rob coming in, it's going to be different, right? Derek White shoots threes. Al Horford shoots threes. When Rob comes in, that's that's just going to be a completely different look. Now, I do think that it adds a lot, and down the line as Rob gets integrated, I mean, look, the floor is going to be so spaced for him whenever he runs those quick pick and rolls with Smart. I mean, there's like it's just going to be. I think down the line, there's a real chance that he's getting 4 or 5 lob dunks a game. But
Mhm.
in the interim, I do think that there's a very good chance that this takes some time because he is because the other thing, you're not integrating a bench player here. You're integrating the guy who's supposed to be your starting center. That's a big
Yeah.
role.
It is, and it's going to take a bit, I think the communication and some of the terminology and some of the things are a little different. Some of the things that you're trying to do is a little bit different. Some of the actions are a little bit different. You can sit there and watch them, but you have to actually do them to uh, get the timing down perfect. So I do think there's going to be a possession here or there where a ball might fly out of bounds, or you might turn the ball over, or it's going to bounce off somebody's hands, and the timing's just going to be off. And you'll see that like pointing, like, oh, you're supposed to blah, 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 and all of that stuff that you normally see in October. So, okay, that's fine. I think they still start double big.
Yeah.
I think you still start him and Al. Mainly, I think, because, well, that's the lineup that got you to the finals, right? That's the lineup that did all the damage last year.
Yep.
We've seen how good it can be. So if you're still going with Smart, Tatum, Brown, and Al, and you've got all those, still got plenty of shooting, like you're not going to leave any of those guys. We've seen how people are closing out on Al Horford now because the word is out. Al is hitting at about 50% right now. So leave him at your own peril. You want to dare him to shoot? Sure. Why not? The Celtics invite you to dare him to shoot. So he'll still have plenty of space, and that will put pressure on defenses. You got to figure something out. And the beauty of Rob is you catch it in the short roll, he turns and whips out to the corner, and if you collapse on him, all right, no problem. Those guys in the corner are still going to get like passes right in their shooting pockets. Boom. So I still go with the double bigs and see how it works. The beauty of this is, Tom, I'm sorry. The beauty of this is it's only December. And
right.
The Celtics have given themselves such a cushion that if you biff a couple of games here and there because you've been trying something and the lineup didn't quite work, you're like, oh God, we wish we didn't lose that. But you're 18-4, and you drop a couple here or there because you're really set on a certain lineup. I think you can live with that now. So it's only December, so try it. If it doesn't work, last point on this rambling point here, this is a team of professionals. If somebody needs to go to the bench, I don't think anybody is going to take that and say, oh, but no, I'm a starter, I shouldn't be like, no. I think everybody on this team is going to say, all right, if I need to go to the bench, I get it. Whatever's best for the team. It's bigger than me. Because we all know it's not Tatum or Brown, so they don't have to worry about it. So
right. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm curious who you're thinking of here. Like, are you thinking of Al? Or are you thinking of Rob?
It could be Al. It could be Al.
Because the one guy who I think probably wouldn't be a candidate for this, but who might be like real upset about it is Smart. Like, I don't think you could get away with that with Smart. I think he's worked so hard to be the starting point guard. I don't think he would like being put on the bench.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I never thought that his spot would be in jeopardy.
Okay. So, all right. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. No, I think, look, you're right. If for some reason they said, hey, Smarty, you got to sit down, come off the bench for us, he'd be pissed, but he'd do it because he knows that this is his chance to win a championship, but he'd be pissed.
Yeah.
He would be pissed. But I also don't think that's necessary. I was thinking like Derek White or Al Horford.
Right. Okay.
Or Grant or whatever. Like I was thinking those guys. Because I still think in Sharpie, it's Smart, Jaylen, Jayson. And then Rob, and hey, look, if Rob needs to come off the bench, if they say, we're going to bring Rob off the bench to start because we want him to play a certain amount of minutes with a certain group or whatever, and it just works, then maybe Rob says, hey, man, whatever. If this is what you need me to do, this is what you need me to do. He's under contract. He's starting a 4-year deal. His money is his money. Like it doesn't matter. And he's like a super cool dude anyway. He's got that kind of like calm Southern, like, yeah, man, whatever you need. We're gonna win a championship. Me doing this, sure. Then good, I'll do it. So, but
Yeah.
I think you start double big, and you just adjust from there.
I agree. I mean, look, this, like you said it, this was the starting lineup. This was the best starting lineup in the NBA last year. Like, this was the group that, really, I mean, especially in the second half of the season, they just like really helped turn things around. On the offensive end, they were just disgusting. Like they were so good last year. And I think, having Rob back is obviously going to really help the defense. So yeah, I agree with most of what you said, besides, my devil's advocate that I don't think Smart would be super
Most
happy
of what I said?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The Smart thing. I didn't agree with you, but now we're cool. No, I do think I think going double bigs is it's the most logical thing to do. I think it's almost like you run the risk. If Rob comes off the bench and is really good with that group, it's almost like you run the risk of that group being a little too good. Or in vice versa, if you're going to bring Rob in, you might as well start him with the starters and just start building that chemistry right away, right?
Yeah.
Sure, of course, you might want to see him with some group, but like if the ultimate goal is to get him in with the starters, just start him with them. Cut his minutes in the middle of the game. Give Derek White or Grant Williams more minutes in the middle of the game and go that route. To me, it's just like just run it out there. Like start take, like you said, take a couple on the chin if you have to take a couple on the chin, because like the long-term goal here is that you reintegrate Rob Williams into the starting lineup. And if it doesn't work this season, if what you have is too good as it stands, like you said, you could bring him off the bench. He is in the first year of a contract. And if you're Rob Williams, the other thing that is that Al Horford is getting older. And like, if you absolutely have to wait till next year to start, fine. Like it's coming. Like your starting role is coming.
I love that we're actually like in earnest discussing this as a possibility. Like Robert Williams isn't going to start. Like Robert Williams isn't going to come back and immediately be like the starter and make this team's defense incredibly better and enhance the offense by being a lob threat that they don't have. And like they already are attacking the paint and crushing it and working the ball around. Like Rob's not going to come in and all of a sudden people are going to be like, oh crap, what do we do now? Tatum's already getting to the rim at will. And you're already sending 2-3 guys and he's scoring through those guys. Now he's going to be like, oh, great. You're all looking at me. I don't have to take this hit. Watch all of these assists that I'm going to start racking up. And then people are going to be like, oh, well, now we have to count for Rob. And he's going to say, oh, great. I'm being single covered. I'm just going to go straight to the rim again. And the entire defense just cries and cries and cries. Like that's the way this is actually going to go. As long as he stays healthy and gets back into it. The only hiccup is going to be his wind. Like he's going to come in, he's going to be gassed after 2 minutes in the first stint, and he'll be, he'll figure it out. But really the ultimate question is going to be, what happens with Al? And do you go Grant and Rob? Do you go Al and Rob? How does that work? What works best defensively? Do you take a little bit of a hit offensively and say, hey, we're instead of being the best offense since, in measured basketball history, and we're going to take it back to just being the best offense in the past 5 years, then okay, sure. Then you take that hit, whatever it is, even if your offense drops, let's just say the offense drops to second or third or fourth, and the defense pops up to second or third or fourth since Rob comes back. Congratulations. You're a championship level team. So
right.
I think it's just a matter of which tweaks are going to happen. And then getting guys together on the bench and you say, okay, now our bench includes Derek White. It's Brogdon and White. You throw out a second unit, like you can start in the top of the second quarter, Brogdon, White, Tatum, I don't know, Hauser and Horford, or Rob, you can put Rob out there depending on the substitution pattern. I mean, what?
Give Luke some minutes. What are we doing here?
Luke some minutes, I don't know, man. I think this is a great problem to have. Let's wrap up the show by talking about the coach and player of the month, Jayson Tatum and Joe Mazzulla. Congratulations to those guys. Jayson Tatum coming off of just a monster game against the Miami Heat. Joe Mazzulla, clearly inspired by the royal family to coach a great game.
Hey man, I think he might have been right. Like Joseph, Mary, Jesus. I think he's inspired by them.
I think he's very inspired by that royal family on a daily basis. I think that's pretty obvious. So congrats to those guys. The Miami game, super interesting, especially in light that they're going to be playing again Friday night. And I don't know if they're going to have Jimmy Butler.
Real quick. Can we talk about how weird this schedule is? 2 Miami games in a row, followed by a 6-game road trip that includes Atlantic Division opponents and Western Conference opponents. It's just weird. I've never seen a road trip like this, and it's you so rarely see like it's like home and home, right? Not just like 2 straight games in Boston. Like this is weird. What a weird stretch.
It's weird because the Celtics next 4 the Celtics 4 home games, the last one and the next 3 are against 2 teams. They play Miami, they go on a road trip, they come back and play Orlando. Kind of wild. I like the baseball series, kind of like 2 teams, two games against the same team. I like that a little bit. It is weird to go Brooklyn, Toronto, Phoenix, Golden State, and then back to back in LA. Like that's a weird treat. Normally you just go out west and you say, okay, you normally would go to Denver or Minnesota.
Your West Coast road trips are they're 4 or 5 games. And you just you go out there and you just go west. You never go to Brooklyn first. Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, they really are literally going coast to coast in this one.
True.
Brooklyn up to Toronto, down to Phoenix, then a 3-game California swing.
That's the other one. Going Toronto to Phoenix. Like, what are we doing?
Toronto to Phoenix, and then up to Golden State, and then down to LA. Like, all right, this is so haphazard.
Yeah. It reminds me of the COVID season, honestly, where they were just like mushing stuff together and trying to make it work. But it's like, no, you had the whole 82 this time. That shouldn't have been so weird. But anyway,
no, it is weird. And I think NBA scheduling is going to be weird no matter what. But the second game against Miami, I haven't heard anything about Jimmy Butler. Guess he's still up in the air. He's still day to day with the knee.
Questionable. Yeah, like he got upgraded today. Yeah,
he got upgraded to questionable. So I guess what that means is he's going to go through a shoot around or go through warm ups, and then we'll see. So so maybe he's back, and we'll see what that means. There's so much in this game Friday that will absolutely have no similarity to this game on Wednesday, because I'm certain that what's his name, Hightower or whatever the frick his name is, I totally forgot his name, is going to go off on the way he did. I can't believe I just forgot this guy's name. That's how he had 4 3-pointers coming into this game, and he had 5 in the game itself. It's insane. So the level of shooting from the role players it's not going to be the same from Miami. At the same time, you would expect if Butler's there, maybe Jimmy or maybe Bam Adebayo has a better game, like finishing. And I don't know that the Celtics had, like, you certainly can't expect 49 again from Tatum, or maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe you can. So I don't know. It's interesting. The Celtics, I thought defensively, they really spent a lot of time in drop coverage against the pick and roll. They kind of got roasted by the pick and roll the whole game. And they needed their offense to put up 130 plus points to overcome that. I'm curious to see what they're going to do to adjust. Maybe Joe didn't change the coverage because he's like, we're going to play them again on Friday. I'll throw some new wrinkles at them on Friday.
It could be. I mean, look, like the interesting thing, one of the interesting things to me, you mentioned he was coach of the month. like one of the things that people always talk about with Mazzulla when they talk about, he was made the head coach of the Celtics, is that his scout of the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals was apparently just like legendary. Like he just put together this like unbelievable scout of the Miami Heat that then convinced Brad Stevens, like, if our head coach ever has something happen to him, maybe we should make Joe Mazzulla. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Mazzulla has, has some stuff up his sleeve for it. One of the interesting things about like Tatum, like, yeah, you can't expect him to score 49 every night, but he is streaky. Like he is a streaky 3-point shooter. He's been a little bit down recently. He was 8 for 12 on 2 days ago when you guys are listening to this. Like I don't know. Maybe he scores 49 again.
Hey, when you do that voice, can you have a puppet? Can you like buy a puppet? So when you do that voice, you have like the little puppet going. Because I think that's a great like Sesame Street Muppet type of voice that you do there.
Yeah. So you're turning me into Oscar the Grouch here, but yeah. So anyway, I just think like there's, you talk about like the player and the coach of the month and like just kind of this series. I do think it's interesting how those two, I'll be curious to see how they react, because Tatum does get on heaters sometimes, and Mazzulla apparently has something, really has something for the Heat. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think there's gonna be some different. I think this game's gonna look much different. By the way, Haywood Highsmith. So I just don't completely disrespect this young man who went out and just hit a ton of shots against the Celtics. So congratulations to Haywood Highsmith. I don't expect you.
Fun thing about Haywood Highsmith is that
Yes,
the last game before this, he played 23 minutes and scored 0 points. So
yeah, yeah. So he was 4 of 6, and he had hit. Let's see, 2, 4. He's had 5 3-pointers in November, and then he had 4 in the one game. And then he didn't hit one in October. So yeah, he almost matched his entire season in one game.
To quote Al Horford, shooters shoot.
Shooters shoot. Shooters, they do indeed. And that's the thing, man. Miami's got a bunch of shooters. Those guys get hot. You can't let them get going. I said that. I wrote that in my preview on Boston Sports Journal. Like, don't overreact to Bam Adebayo. Bam's having he was on a great stretch. Just don't let their shooters get hot, because they can burn you. And that's what they did, man. Those guys, but I just don't think that you're going to see the same level of shooting from Miami. Now, everybody says that about the Celtics, but is Max Strus going to hit 5 of 10 in a quarter again? Is Highsmith going to go 4 for 6? Is Gabe Vincent going to get? Who knows? I just think the Celtics need to be better about that 3-point line, get those guys off balance, and figure something out with the pick and rolls. Like, don't either switch. They didn't switch at all in this game. I think you're going to see like nothing but switches, and they'll just roll with, a completely different, like, watch, they'll just switch everything to an insane degree and try to throw Miami off.
Well, and if they do that, it's a really interesting strategy, because what you're doing is you're not giving the Heat anything really to work with when the playoffs roll around, because in the playoffs, presumably, you're not going to go switchless for an entire game, and you're not going to go all switch everything for an entire game. Right. So if you go all switch everything for an entire game, you're basically just practicing. Like, hey, what if we see these guys in the playoffs again?
Right.
Like, we're not going to show you how we're adjusting to anything. Like, here's an all switch game, here's an all no switch game, and here's just 140 points. If you can outscore it, good luck.
I look, that is kind of the beauty of this team, in a sense, for Joe Mazzulla. You can kind of count on 120. You can count on 120 a night.
Yeah.
Like, that's their offensive rating, is 120 per 120 something per 100 possessions. So on a night like this, well, you had 83 shots and you turn the ball over 18 times. So that's 100 possessions. You got your 100 possessions right there. So you can count on 120. Teams aren't going to, maybe this year's a little bit different, but teams aren't going to outscore 120 very often.
Right.
Although the Heat put up 121 last night. So it was just asterisk galore here. But I just think it's a luxury for Joe to say, all right, we can play the long game against a potential playoff opponent because I still feel good about how Tatum and Brown and these guys can score against this particular Miami Heat defense because they're not stopping this Celtics team. They're not able to stop this Celtics team the way they move the ball. So defensively, you throw a few quirks. What the hell? Throw some zone out there. I'm waiting for the zone game from the Celtics because you know that there's got to be some zone. You can't have this much zone defense in the NBA and the Celtics not play any of it.
Yeah.
All right. That's a Friday podcast for everybody. Thank you, Tom, for lending your grouchiness.
You're welcome.
And now I've got my thumbnail for the YouTube video. So I want to thank everybody for listening, for watching. Friday night at the Garden. I'll do a post-game podcast. I'll do post-game Friday night. Hopefully after another win, that would be their 6th straight win and their 15th in 16 games. That would be just outrageously good. So I'll do a quicker one for a Friday night. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks everybody for watching. If you are a subscriber, I would love it if you shared the podcast and told your friends, told your family that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.